Alright, good morning guys. Today we're going to be diving into a new section. It's the introduction to absolute value and solving absolute value equations. So the idea of absolute value may look a little bit familiar as we've seen it in middle school, but we are going to kind of refresh on the concept of it. So in your warm-up you had this row of houses, and number 1 said, suppose you live 3 houses away from the house labeled 1. So this house. Circle your possible house. So let's just think maybe 3 houses to the left. So 1, 2, 3. But you know we always have neighbors on both sides. So let's go ahead and think about 3 neighbors to the right. 1, 2, 3. So these are the 2 houses that are our possibilities to be our house. The house that we live in. Number 2 says, was the information above enough to determine which house is yours for sure? Why or why not? So number 1 didn't tell us whether we're neighbors to the right or to the left. So we don't know whether we live here or here. We could live in either one. So our answer to number 2 is no, it was not. It doesn't tell you left or right. So there's 2 possibilities. All right. So there are 2 possible houses that we could live in. That's the big idea of the concept of absolute value, is that there's 2 options and 2 answers. So let's go ahead and look at that concept using integers and numbers. So suppose the value of x is 4 spaces away from 0 on the number line. We're always looking at spaces from 0 on the number line. Please circle the possible value of x. Is there more than 1? So let's go ahead and look at this number line. It has a negative side and a positive side. And let's start at 0. I'm going to go ahead and do 4 spaces to the left first. So 1, 2, 3, 4. But we also have the positive direction. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces in the positive direction. So notice this space right here. These are both amounts of 4 spaces. So that means that x can either be -4 or x can equal +4. All right. Now let's look at that idea, but instead of just a number, we're going to go ahead and look at a value or a quantity. So now suppose the value of x plus 7 is 6 spaces away, again from 0 on a number line. Where would x plus 7 be located? We're going to go ahead and list both options. Remember, we're always going to have 2 options for absolute value. So let's start at 0, and we're going to count 6 spaces away from 0. I'm going to go ahead and do the positive direction first. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that means x plus 7 being 6 spaces away from 0 could either be -6 or x plus 7 can equal +6. Now, a shorter way of saying the distance from something to 0 on a number line, is saying absolute value. This is an important idea. So basically, absolute value is saying the distance from something to 0 on a number line. Okay? So absolute value is the distance from something to 0 on a number line. In words, that's going to look like this. The distance of x plus 7 to 0 is 6 spaces. In symbols, that's going to look like this. We're going to have these lines like this, x plus 7, like that. X plus 7 equals 6. This is our absolute value sign, and this is how we're going to notate the value of x plus 7 is 6 spaces away from 0. Again, you can go ahead and pause the video or rewind and rewatch this section as many times as you need. Great, now that we've had a refresher on the idea of what absolute value is and the idea that we have 2 possibilities and 2 answers, we're going to go ahead and look at absolute value as part of an equation to solve. So let's go ahead and look at number 1. Again, keeping in mind the structure, we have an absolute value with a quantity inside equals a number. So the quantity 2x plus 4 is 2 spaces away from 0. So again, this notation, this means that 2x plus 4 is 2 spaces away from 0 on a number line. Therefore, 2x plus 4 is either -2 or 2. I hope you guys have been picking up on the idea that we're always going to have a positive answer and a negative answer, or possibility. So being 2 spaces away means we could be 2 or -2. All right? So that means that 2x plus 4 can be -2, or 2x plus 4 can be +2. And these are equations that we've seen and know how to solve already, so I'm going to go ahead and solve them the same way we've been doing. So I want to isolate my 2x, so I'm going to go ahead and do the opposite of adding 4, which is subtracting 4 from both sides. That's going to leave me with 2x equals -6. I'm going to go ahead and divide 2 on both sides, leaving me with x equals -3. So that is one of my possible answers. Now I'm going to go ahead and look at this one. Same idea, I'm going to go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides, leaving me with 2x equals -2. I'm going to go ahead and divide 2 on both sides, leaving me with the possibility that x equals -1. So we've now taken this equation, the absolute value of 2x plus 4 equals 2, and we've split it up into 2 other equations using the possibilities of -2 or 2 based on the distance from 0. And we did get our answer, x equals -3 or x equals -1. It is okay that both of our answers are in both negative. We don't need one negative, one positive. The positive and the negative are going to come in right here. Those are our possibilities for the value of 2x plus 4, not necessarily our answers to the equation. Let's look at another example so we can get some more practice. So number 2 says the absolute value of 3x minus 1 equals 7. Again, keep in mind the structure of this and what it's saying in words. So this means that 3x minus 1, which is what's in the absolute value symbol, is now 7 spaces away. That's what this 7 means. 7 spaces away from 0 on a number line. Therefore, 3x minus 1 is either, if you notice the trend, is either -7 or 7. That means now we can break up this equation now into 2 new equations. So 3x minus 1 equals -7, or 3x minus 1 equals +7. So I'm going to go ahead and look at this one first. I want to get 3x by itself, so I'm going to undo this -1 by adding 1 to both sides. So 3x equals -7 plus 1 is going to give me -6. I'm going to go ahead and divide 3 on both sides to isolate our variable x, which is going to give me x equals -2 for one answer. Now I'm going to look at my other equation. Again, I'm going to add both 1 to both sides to undo this -1 right here. That's going to leave me with 3x equals 8. To keep isolating our variable x, I want to divide both sides by 3 to undo this multiplication. Remember, when we see a constant and a variable next to each other, it indicates multiplication. I'm going to go ahead and divide 3 on both sides. And that's going to leave us with the solution 8/3. And guys, we are going to run into fractions like this. It's completely fine to leave your answer and to have an answer as a fraction. So for the absolute value of 3x minus 1 is 7 spaces away from 0. We now know that x could either be -2 to make that happen, or it could be 8/3 to make that happen. Let's look at number 3. This one's a little bit different. We do have an extra step. So the absolute value of 4x plus 2 minus 3 spaces equals 11. So in words, this is saying this means that 4x plus 2 to 0 on a number line, and then minus an extra 3 spaces, is 11. So we do have an extra step in this type of problem, and here's a little reminder. We always want to get the absolute value alone before we make it 2 equations. Okay, so for this example, we can't say 4x plus 2 minus 3 could be -11 or 11. We want to get this guy by itself before we can say the 2 possibilities. So let's go ahead and do that. 4x plus 2 minus 3 equals 11. So it's kind of like we are isolating our absolute value. And to do that, I'm going to go ahead and add 3 to both sides, just like we've been isolating all of our other variables. And now we are left with our absolute value all alone on one side, and 11 plus 3 gives us 14. Now this is similar in structure to numbers 1 and 2. So this is where we can then split up into 2 equations, where 4x plus 2 is 14 spaces away from 0, meaning that 4x plus 2 could be negative 14, or 4x plus 2 could be positive 14. I'm going to go ahead and solve for x the same way we've been doing. To isolate my 4x, I want to subtract 2 from both sides, leaving me with 4x equals negative 16, because negative 14 minus 2 is negative 16. And to keep isolating x, I'm going to go ahead and undo this multiplication by 4 by dividing 4 on both sides, leaving me with the possibility that x equals negative 4. So that is one solution. I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on this right side equation by subtracting 2 on both sides, leaving me with 4x equals 12. Again, this is multiplication when they're right next to each other, so I'm going to undo it using the inverse operation, which is division. And that's going to leave me with the solution that x could also be 3. So these values of x equals negative 4 and x equals 3, those are values of x that are going to make the value of 4x plus 2 be 14 spaces away from 0. That is the meaning of our solutions when we're solving equations with absolute value. All right, let's look at one more example before I let you guys try some on your own. So we have number 4 says the absolute value of 5x plus 2 equals negative 8. So we've seen something similar in structure. We have the absolute value on its own on one side, and then an integer on the other side, indicating, remember, the number of spaces from 0. All right, so this is saying that 5x plus 2 is, whatever this number tells us, is negative 8 spaces away from 0. But if you recall that absolute value is a distance from 0, it's a number of spaces, it's the distance from 0 on the number line. But distance can never be negative, right? You can't say you're negative 1 mile away, right? You're always, there's positive 1 mile, positive 10 feet, never negative 10 feet away. So since distance can never be negative, this means that there's no solution. So whenever we have an absolute value equals a negative number, that is immediately telling us that there is no solution. All right. Go ahead and pause the video here, and you can rewind and rewatch as many times as you need. If you have any questions on any of the examples, please let us know and we can go over those examples with you together in class. At this time, you can try these problems on your own, and I will run through them with you in a bit so you can check your answers.